Hi again, everyone, for those people who remember me from this morning. This is a man who has grown up with violence for much of his life. First during the Troubles in Belfast and then amongst London's criminal underworld. From grim children's homes to the notorious ranks of crime gangs, his quest for belonging led him down a path marked by both danger and betrayal. A failed armed robbery culminated in him shooting at a police officer and duly receiving 15 years as a Category A prisoner amongst some of the most infamous inmates that this country has ever seen. However, it was within these very prison walls where the seeds of transformation and redemption were sown. As a result, this man turned his life around completely, winning an International Peace Prize and becoming a successful business entrepreneur. He is now a TV personality and a tireless charity worker, and he has been promoting his new autobiography in national press and on major TV and radio chat shows both here in the UK and back in Ireland since it was published in September. He is extraordinary and has certainly succeeded in his search for a life worth living. Ladies and gentlemen, Stephen GILLEN. And I'm just going to test this mic to see if it's working. Is it not working now?
Take that one out.
I'll take that one.
Test this one as well.
Can you hear me? This happened to me last year as well. Okay.
Shall I test this one?
Yeah, do you want to test that?
How's that? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
How's that? Good?
Brilliant. Okay, so I've mentioned about Stephen's life. He's going to tell us more in detail now. So Stephen, tell us a little bit about your early life growing up in Belfast, because you were born in Bethnal Green in London, but you grew up in Belfast during the Troubles. So tell us about that first.
Yeah, I was born here, and I was taken over to Belfast about 6 months old as a young child. My family come from there, you know, my wider family, maternal family. But I was actually left there by my maternal mother, who just kind of left me there really with family, and come back to England. So yeah, I was right there, early 70s, in the middle of it. You know, it was a lot of trouble then. You know, it was a war zone. You know, it'd be very normal to hear people shooting it out in the flats, right? You know, overnight, and you know, stuff like that. So it was a very chaotic time. But behind the door, you know, I had a lot of love, and I had a really good family.
And so what age were you at this point, Stephen?
Well, I went there as a born baby, pretty much, 6 months old, you know, so it's all I knew. And I stayed there till I was 9.
And then you were shipped off back to East London, where you were born, at the age of 10, and you kind of fell in with the wrong crowd, didn't you?
Yeah, I mean, another trauma for me was my surrogate mother died. You know, she was a grandmother to me. She died of cancer when I was age 9. So the men of the family said, look, you know, he needs a woman's hand, so he needs to go back, you know, back to his mother, back to England. So I was the young kid with the case on the boat by myself, going back over to London.
And so kind of escalated, didn't it, from petty theft to more serious crime? What sort of period was that, and how did that come about, Stephen?
Well, coming back really, I mean, London was a fast place, of course, East London, but it was nothing compared to where I come from. You know, where people were shooting it out at street corners. So it was kind of strange for me. I was bringing a lot of trauma. I had a lot of anger as a child, you know, I couldn't translate that. So I was kind of feral, really, you know, to be honest, and I kind of had to find my own way, as crazy as it seems. and it went from bad to worse. You know, I was kind of.
So this was just like normal life for you, really, wasn't it? It was you didn't know any other way, having been brought up in Belfast, then coming to East London and mixing with this type of people. You didn't see any other type of life.
Looking back, it's unfortunate, of course. You know, we're kind of positioned for some things. You have to be accountable, but we are positioned. You know, and if you're positioned for a lot of failure and a lot of stuff, then you won't be surprised if you get it. You know, until you can get out of that. So, yeah, I kind of had to survive. You know, and I learned to do more and be more. I was the crazy guy who was even more crazy than even the crazy people. You know, but really that was a defence mechanism. And of course I was like, some of the family I had back in London was, there was quite a deep criminal fraternity. A lot of them was really high profile target criminals of the day. So these was the role models, and it was all of that kind of environment. This is how we look at the world, this is what we do, and of course this is a very, very bad message.
Did you find it inevitable at this stage that you were going to end up behind bars, or did you think you would always avoid it?
No. I mean, it's really strange. When I was at the Old Bailey later, I had 3 trials at the Old Bailey for armed robbery. I picked 2 of them, and on the 3rd one I was found guilty of all the offences. But when I was getting the sentencing, and there were so many sentences, I was just listening to the biggest one, when they would make the rest concurrent. I just had that kind of really strange epiphany that I always knew I would kind of get that. I always knew I was going to get a big sentence, and that was really crazy. But I remember thinking that.
And it didn't bother you. You just thought that came with the territory.
As strange as it is, I mean, I can remember on that day, I was arrested with some South London people, and we got our sentences, and we went down the stairs in the Old Bailey, and I remember shaking their hand saying, right, that's it then, we'll have to do it, that's it, let's get on to the next. And it's crazy, really, but that was the way I went.
And you ended up spending, the best part of 18 years behind bars, and that all started when you were, 22 years of age, I believe?
Well, my first sentence I got when I was 14, and I remember I was kind of on a bad path then, so much that they put it off 10 days till after my 14th birthday, so they could actually put me in prison as a deterrent to give me a short, sharp shock, as it was said then. But yeah, I was kind of in and out. There was a lot of gang stuff, and, a lot of violence. We was very active. So at the end of it, I got 18 years. I was a category A prisoner. I ended up serving 12 years in that sentence.
Yeah, and mixing with some notorious names, including Charlie Bronson. Do you want to tell us about that?
They was all there, people talk about all these names, they was all there, all the high profile, notorious people of the day, would be there, and because we was all high security prisoners, and I was even in prison within prisons because of my category status. So you would be with all these guys, they'd be next door, you'd have to live like that, you'd have to navigate that, and this would go on for years and years. So, that wouldn't be anything, as crazy as it seems, Rick, it wouldn't be anything strange. But, a hell on earth, that has to be said. A real desperate place and a real hell on earth.
I think it's because it's a name that everybody will know here. Obviously, Charlie Bronson, we've seen his picture in various places in the media. It will probably seem odd to people here that you talk about him in such a sort of matter-of-fact way, but you've got to know him quite well, you've got to know people like him quite well. Did this, whilst you were inside, did this encourage you to carry on doing what you were doing at that stage, or were you already starting to see you didn't want to be like these people?
Well, I always say it as it is, you know, because that's where the learning is, that's where the jewels is. So don't dress it up, window dress it or anything like that. Charlie, you know, he was a screw loose. You know, there was other sides to Charlie like there are to people. When you, in their places, you get to see the best and worst of everyone. There's really no middle ground, you know. It's a place of extremes, and you have to survive. I mean, I had a lot of anger. I was one of the most disruptive prisoners at that time. Not that I would tell people to go that way. I would absolutely not tell them to go that way. You know, and I have to say, I see them beat and break harder than me, tough or whatever, every day of the week. You know, that has nothing to do with it. But there was just something in me where I felt that they tortured me so much mentally, spiritually, emotionally, physically even. There was a little part of me that just wouldn't give it up. Just wouldn't give it up, you know, and I dug my heels in. You know, to be honest, that kept me going, you know, the anger, you know, as crazy as it is, that kept me going for many a year. You're talking about a place where you go to a really most basis human place of being, you know, if you can imagine it. Not a nice place that you would want to be.
And you were moved, was it 23 times?
23, 25 times. Yeah, because they would move you around, you know, and that was part of the torture, of course, keep you moving, but it was also to lessen the burden on the prison system. So, you know, they'd have a strategy, especially for cat A's, they'd never tell you where you was going, how you was going, who you was going, they would come and that'd be it, you know, yeah, you know, you'd have some good moves, but there'd be other places, strategic places they would put you, and they'd be waiting for you. You know, it'd be, you know, they'd really be waiting for you, you know, and it'd be very tough to be at their places too.
So frightening as well then for you?
It's very frightening. It's you know, it's desperate. You know, it's a desperate place to find yourself, and yeah, it's kind of, you know, I never thought I'd get out of there. I really didn't. I mean, you know, how can you see 12 years ahead of yourself of that madness? You just can't see that. You know, one of the explanations I give that kind of helps translate this is, you know, it takes a few years to get into a sentence like that. You know, it took me about 4 years. And then you suddenly realise, you know, as human beings, you know, we're going through this grand old day of torture and all the violence and the this and that. So of course it's your memories, you know, the good memories you're trying to use in your moments to make you feel better. But after 4 years of that, you realise you're not making any new memories. You're stuck in this hell, right? That's a really strange place to be, because you end up like the living dead, you know. I mean, you know, I remember I used to walk them corridors, and I felt like they'd really sucked every bit of emotion out of me, you know, and they had. It was just a terrible, but, you know, I think that explains it a bit, helps to explain it.
So you served 12 years, and during that 12 years, what was this moment of realisation that you needed to turn your life around?
Everyone asked this question, but there were many, you know, there were many epiphanies. There were some lines in the sand. You know, I had a real kind of spiritual experience about 4 years into it. I was in the block in Whitemore, and I really come to it. You know, there'd been a lot of violence. I was fighting them all the time, the door was open. It was about 4 years into it, and I thought, you know what? I don't want to go on with this, and I positioned myself into it, and I thought my best thinking at the time was, I thought, okay, I'll fall on my sword like a Roman emperor. This is how I said it to myself. I was really in a desperate place. I thought, you know, I don't want to do this. And then I had a real kind of, you know, I was in this cell and segregation, and, you know, and it was about 2 in the morning, and I just felt this real kind of feeling of comfort and love kind of come down. It was very profound. You know, I can't really explain how it was, but it come down and it settled on me just enough to kind of wash me, heal me of where I got myself, and that was a real moment, like, for me as well. You know, there was something else saying we have to go through this, Stephen, and it's all right.
So you felt this way, and you felt the changes, but you're surrounded by all these dangerous people. Did you share this moment with them, or did you share it with anybody? And if so, how did they feel about you saying no, you wanted to turn your back on what they were still doing?
That's a good question, because in there it's just not like that, you know, and I have to say it as it was, you know, because I had a bit of a name going in there, and You know, it kind of brings stuff. And then what you're getting in there is you're getting all kind of worst, really. You know, you've got them all in there from, you know, all around the country. But where we were all Category A inmates just stuck together. So, you know, you'd be having these wars or these beefs with people. They could go on for 10 years. So they're just moving you around and round and round. So you can't escape this. You know, sometimes you go to a prison. You don't know where they're moving you or anything like that. And you go in there. Sometimes you'd have your friends around you, so you'd be strong. You'd think, well, yeah, you know, I'm all right here, that's all right. Sometimes you go to another place, all your enemies would be there. Of course, this would be very bad. And then, you know, you'd have to really watch yourself. This is life and death. You know, I see 2 people murdered in front of me in there. This is the level of violence you're talking about. When they would come for you in there, you're off the wing, you're gone. You're like, the threat is removed. This is how it works in there.
You can see that this is quite a thick book. So some of the things that we're talking about, Stephen goes into far more detail in. So if you like true crime, this is a great book for you. So look, you came out 2003. I'm guessing it wasn't that easy just coming out, and you decided to turn your life around. But obviously everybody else thought, well, it's the same old Stephen Gillen. So how difficult was it when you first came out to convince everybody that this was a changed man?
Yeah, that's quite a journey on the other side as well, because when you've got years to settle into things like that, then you've got the years on the other side of it because you're institutionalised. Just normal things, silly things, you know. Becoming human again. I mean, I knew at the end of that sentence, I remember it was Millennium Night. I was in a special unit in Woodhill, and I think I had about 18 months left. It was about 2 years or something. And I remember when everyone else was doing all the festivities around the world, because there's a big thing, Millennium, you know, I got on my knees and I said a prayer, look, you know, I have to be done with this. You know, I realised I have to sort myself out. I need to change my life. I need help with this, right? You know, to get me forward in what I need to do, what I need to become. You know, and I remember that, you know, I remember that, and that was the thing. But I knew at that time that the migration of why, even that prison, for me to survive, you know, I really had to sort myself out, or I wasn't going to survive, you know. I had to get my humanity back. I had to get all of this stuff back because that had been taken away from me just by the journey itself, even, you know.
But this relied on other people helping you as well. They must, you know, you must have had other people around you that thought, yeah, we can see that you've changed, that we'll give you some support, because this isn't something you could have done on your own.
No, I mean, the short answer is, you know, you come out, I was back in East London, it's very difficult. You've got a name, you know, and there's no 1 foot in, 1 foot out in this kind of life, you know. You know, I realised that we're all in, we're all out, of course. I always played by the rules of that life, you know, so, you know, when I come out, I've done my bit, you know, and everyone else's bit. So I wasn't beholden to anyone. I wasn't over the barrel to anyone, and that was me done, right, you know, so I could move on, you know. So, but, you know, I had to do a lot of things, you know. You know, there was a thing in the East End in Christmas time. All the churches come together, for instance, they help all the homeless, you know. So I remember I'd go there, I'd wash the floors, I'd make the beds, I'd cook the food. I mean, mostly just talk to people. But I just loved going there and just being no one, you know. Yes, I've done a lot of voluntary work. I've done a lot of stuff like that. I was kind of lucky enough that my family, they had a building company then. I didn't get any favours, of course. It was groundwork, manual labour, all this kind of weathers, and of course they put me through it. Didn't get any favours, so I had to really, you know, have my nose rubbed in it. I kind of needed that, and that was okay, you know. So that was another thing for me, good, honest work. But I went from £70 a day labourer, you know, to supervisor, to running my own contracts, to running my own plant, to having my own business, my first own business, within 18 months. So that was one part of it.
So you, on this road now, and other people have started to believe in you again. When did you get to the point where you wanted to start promoting peace? Because you were nominated for a Peace Prize. So how did that come about?
You know, you just kind of start. I mean, I more is revealed on the journey, right? You know, and I kind of started at, you know, ground zero. and then it kind of comes to you, right? You know, you want to be this. You know, you want to help hundreds of millions of people around the world. You know, with a message. How can that be? You know, next thing, boy, you know, you need to be a person who can be someone who can be someone who can do that. You know, then you need to conquer business, you need to conquer media, you need to conquer some of these other things. I mean, it's been a journey, but I can say I've gone a way to going towards doing some of these things.
And you do, you know, it should be said as well, you do like to help people as well that you can see that are going down the same path as you. So talk a little bit about that, because, you know, you've done...
Yeah, I mean, the truth is in the telling and the proof is in the pudding, you know, and what we're talking about here with people who come from these kind of lives, these kind of environments, this kind of programming and all that. You know, the best way to tell them is that they listen to one of their own, in a sense, who's sailed the river, you know, and as human beings we can tell, we know something that's right or something that's not right. We have an instinct with that, you know, and so just by the journey and by doing, you know I get that. You know, I've had many messages, you know, over the years of people who have really been in dark places. So this is one of the things I have to say that makes my heart smile the most, that this can help, you know, and I know that it certainly has.
By the way, if anyone's wondering why our water isn't going down, there's a hole in the roof and it's filling up as we're speaking.
No way we'll be able to drink it fast enough, but no chance.
So, Stephen, you often talk of something called the resilience code. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Because this is something that means a lot to you.
Yeah, it's just something I really developed, you know, which is a format. I mean, I've done a TED talk just a while ago, you know, and it was the 9th most watched TED talk in the world, you know, 102,000 views, I think, in the first month, right? And that was like to do with this stuff. But it's just condensing my formula, transformation about the journey, really condensing it and getting it simple, so people can get an idea, right? You know, it's not convoluted, and you know, process to just help them out of the darkness and out of the trauma.
And now you've got your own successful business, Raw Creative Media, or Raw Media Creative. I've got that the wrong way around.
Yeah.
But you do a lot of good work with that. How many people? Because you've got a lot of clients, and you're quite open with your past, aren't you? In terms of, obviously, you know, you're seen on television. We've got the book out. So how does that work in terms of your clients? Are they all accepting of what your past has been?
You know, there's no hidden corners, right? You know, and that's the way to be. I've always been a real person, and I've never, you know, we all have a story. I believe, you know, everyone has a story. You know, this is a journey anyway, you know, and it is what it is, right? You know, I always say life doesn't give us what we want, it gives us what we become, and it really does, you know, it's what we become, is what we get, right? So, you know, we're going to make some mistakes along the way and all this stuff, some more than others, but, you know, it's about learning by that, you know, and that's what I believe in.
All right, so your book will be on sale at the back, and Stephen is going to sign copies. When did you decide to write this book? When did you decide that this all needed to go down in print?
That's a funny one, you know, because if you'd have come to me 8 years ago and said, "Look, you're going to write a book," I said, "Well, you know, what drink are you drinking?" But you know, it's kind of a process, and yeah, I just got to that stage. It was very, very cathartic, but on my journey of media and stuff like that, it's definitely been part of the journey of what had to be done to, you know, translate that. And for me, the main part of it was the authenticity and the no holds barred, you know, warts and all. And you know, I'm very happy that we've done that with this kind of book.
Yeah, I'm very happy too, because I agented it. Also, second time today. But also, we have the publisher, Taryn Johnston, who's here with us today, and she's come. This is how important this book is. She's come all the way down from Lincoln today to support Stephen, and has published this book brilliantly. So I'm going to give Taryn a mention as well. So you're working on some TV projects. I know you can't tell me about all of them, but you can tell me about some of them.
Yeah, there's a few. I mean, you know, I'm on Sky already with some series, the Essex Murders and stuff like that. You can see, you know, I got a studio, so we're in that sphere of, you know, making content, and I've got another series coming out September with Ross Kemp. You know, that's quite one. It's going to be massive. It's about the mafia and all that stuff, I have to say, right? Five episodes, right, with Sky History. So I won't say any more about that. But I've also got something that's quite exciting. With some really big names over in the States, and that's also to do with mafia. It's, you know, some of the really big guys over there I know different stuff. So yeah, there's a few seasons of something that we've been working on, with the third season being over here, like, you know, the UK kind of crime genre, kind of underworld stuff. So it's quite exciting. And look, the thing is, you know, this stuff in the US, for instance, it's called escaping the mob. So it's not, you know, it's no way glamorising this life, because it's a real opportunity, you know, with really, really high production around the world, to show why it's not good, why this destroys everything, right? How to keep away from it. You know, it's going through the epiphanies of how these guys saw through the life. You know, a lot of them went into witness protection and all that. These are some of the biggest names in the States we're talking about. So it's real human stories, but of course it's got it all. But the message is positive to people out there. So, you know, I'm very pleased about that. It's a great privilege.
So now you've got to this stage in your life, and you've got a book out, and you're working on TV. What are your ambitions for the future? Because your glass is always full, although mainly that's because of the hole in the roof. But what are your ambitions for the future?
I'm laughing at this, to still be here, right? You know, seriously, in the morning, you know, people say to me, "Hey, how you doing?" I say, "Well, I'm still here." You know, you work out in the end, right? You know, so I'm a very boots on the ground person, and you know, we'll see where the river's going to take us, right? You know, so we keep making the right decisions with the right people. That's kind of the best you can do, and you know, embrace it all.
That's great. Okay, so I think what we'll do now is we'll open up to the audience and have some questions for the audience. So there's one there. Oh God, we've got loads. That's brilliant. This lady in the front here, Pat, when you get a moment. We really are getting soaked up here, by the way, just in case you're wondering. I could hardly read any questions.
Hello, I'm Sarah. I used to work in Rochester Prison, which is category C, and I managed the chaplaincy there for quite a while. And actually, it's quite a hard thing, because you're working as a chaplain in prison. Your aim, your hope, is that actually you're going to be able to make a difference, that something will click, and you recognise that it is actually within yourself, you know, you as a prisoner, to make those changes and to want to do it. We very, very, very rarely hear anything afterwards, and we always sort of like pat each other on the back. Well, we've been sowing seeds for the future. We may never know where they're going to grow. But were there people, and please be honest, because I know you will be, but were there people, did you meet any people that came in from outside, or maybe that the chaplaincy helped? Because the rest of the prison service, regardless of that, we're always down at the bottom, we get forgotten about, and we'll bring you in if somebody's died, or if you know, whatever. But actually, the heart of that stuff is to see life change. So and if there was no one, then that's fine, you know, but I'm just interested in that.
No, absolutely. Look, you know, there were some wonderful people with the chaplaincy and people like that. They're really like there, you know, they're a lot of beacon of light, really, you know, trying to help things and, you know, spread some comfort and light and all that there. It's an extremely hard task, right, you know, as you know. You know, the thing about prison is it's very bureaucratic. in the sense you're very bound with red tape, and that really breaks up a lot of the good stuff that pockets of good people are trying to do in there, unfortunately. But yeah, you know, more credit to the people in there trying to change things for the better.
Who's next? There's a couple of hands over there, gone up.
Anything you can do that can help others, especially youth, try and think deeper and try and save them?
Yeah, this is the thing. I mean, there's a lot of initiatives which I'm involved in, you know, and other people are. The short answer, I suppose, is what I see. I was in the Times the other day talking about this as well, right? You know, there was a piece in the Times, Reform, right, about this, and really what it needs is bespoke kind of formulas that come together for people. This is where it's lacking, things like emotional intelligence and stuff like that. You know, we know the root causes, you know, broken families, environment, poverty, trauma, all of this stuff, right? You know, that really sets it up, right? So more of a bespoke kind of roadmap needs to be taken for people. But there are some wonderful initiatives that are, you know, interrupting early on now to put things in place so things can be better later on for people.
Are you involved in the conditional portions that are working for young people? With all due respect, they're not reading the Times, right?
Yeah, I'm involved in a few things. I work with a few initiatives. You know, there's a few. There's about 4 or 5, right, which I really believe in, because they're producing the goods and they make business. You know, and they've got something which is.
This is reminding you of
It's looking for the glass, right? Looking for the glass. All right, no worries. Hope that answers your question.
Is there any other questions? Because over the years, obviously, Stephen has faced some very dangerous situations, and I'd hate to think that what eventually gets him is being electrocuted by a microphone. Is there another question there?
Stand behind the speakers. Stand behind the speakers. Stephen, hello.
Hello there.
I must say I'm very sorry about your human rights being abused here under this stage, and the dripping water, and you know the gilded life that you've lived. I hope and sorry that the rain came down, but everybody has loved to talk. I've got one question, and that would be, that rain is falling on that table. Move your book. Yeah. So when you came out of prison after long stints in prison, everything had moved on. Technology, everything. I mean, can you describe what that felt like the first day coming out, seeing a world that had changed, and how you cope with that, and what were those changes?
Yeah, it's like a time warp, you know, Henry, like for me, that's how I said it's like a time warp. And it's surreal because they actually put me on surveillance when I come out of that sentence, because I was released to Category A, which is extremely rare. Usually you come all the way down A, B, C, D. But I'd done the whole lot Category A, you know, so I'm still in Category A, walked to the gate with dogs, let out the gate. Of course, that was a strange one. But I found out then there was all police and there was observation outside the gate. And I kind of felt that, you know, for me it was a really strange experience. So I come out and I don't know, it was just the strangest thing. Because I felt like I'd come out one door for another door. It's just madness, you know. 12 years of my life had gone. You know, I was not in a good place, really, right, you know, after that, of course. And then it just felt as if I'd been back to where I was before. Of course, it comes out in the wash, doesn't it? You know, after a while. But you are institutionalised, you know, everything seems really fast. And then, you know, you see the nuances. And it becomes quite hard, you know. It's very hard, you see it everywhere, in the relationships and all of that stuff. It's like you have to learn again, you're like a child in a way. Because you're so, like, you know, you're so far behind in a way, right? You have to catch up. And of course, it takes a couple of years to sort yourself out again, you know.
So I think you can tell from what Stephen's been saying. Somebody mentioned it down here, that he is truly inspirational, and it does prove that you can turn your life around. I think there's a few people in this room that have done that, but Stephen has written about it in this book. It's published by Kronos Publishing. The publisher is over there. My wife is at the back holding up the book, strangely enough in a raincoat. Who knew? And so Stephen will be at the back signing copies of this book. They're £15 each, but well worth it. You can see how thick this book is, and a lot of these stories, obviously, he'll go into detail. So I think we all want to say thank you very much to Stephen Gillen.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Try and stay dry.